Hello everyone. So welcome to how to celebrate the Blue Dragon Festival or Longtaito in just 5 minutes, or at least starting in 5 minutes. So we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping first. So if you want to skip straight to the 5-minute sort of walkthrough, go to either the captions or the description of the video and just click to that timestamp. So a little bit of intro about what this is. So this is actually part of a 10 festival or 10 video series that I'm doing for my Panda Cub heritage folks. And the idea is we want to reconnect with our heritage, starting with kind of the big and small 10 major minor festivals. And we might not have a bunch of time to do it. So if we only have 5 minutes during our coffee break, then we are just going to watch the 5 minutes of this video walkthrough. And we can mark our heritage task or goal as done, right? But if we have a little bit more time, then finish the rest of this video and maybe even explore some of the recipes and activities and stories that I have in the heritage library for y'all. So if you're watching of your Panda Cub Heritage portal, this is what your page is going to look like, right? So this should look pretty familiar. This is part of our Panda Cub Heritage Festival guide, starting with Chinese New Year. We just did Lantern Festival, and now here we have Blue Dragon Festival. If you are watching this as part of the Heritage Patreon tier, all of this that we are going to be covering is going to be duplicated in a big old Patreon post. So you'll have access to everything here except for some of the live events that I talked to. Those are only going to be available for the Heritage folks who joined as part of the yearly program. And if you are watching this on YouTube, then congratulations on being part of my publishing chapadua content, or basically battling my perfectionism monster journey. So one day I will create a polished, edited video without ums and ums, but today is not the day. This is just making sure that I can get this out in the universe. All right, so with all of that housekeeping out of the way, Blue Dragon Festival 101, 5 minutes starting now. All right, so Blue Dragon Festival has a ton of names. It's also called Qinglongjie, which is the literal translation, or actually Qinglong, I think it's like teal dragon, but it's also called Zhonghejie, Zhonghe Festival, as well as 2月2 Longtaito. Longtaito 101. So Longtaito actually means dragon raising its head, and it is one of the lesser known and not widely celebrated Chinese festivals, and it's mostly actually celebrated in rural areas. So when I was growing up, I didn't actually celebrate it. But especially since this year, 2024, is Year of the Dragon, I thought this is a perfect time to bring this in. So Longtaito, as I mentioned before, is also called 2月2, and that is because it is celebrated on the second day of the second lunar month, or Nongli 2月2. This day also happens to be 惊蛰, which is one of the 24 solar terms, and we'll get into that on another heritage project. But for now, all you need to know that this is around the time that, if you're in the state, daylight savings happened. And it's also the time when hibernating critters, such as insects, are kind of coming and waking. And this also happens to occur around the same time that other living things start growing, right? So this is very much an agrarian or rural festival that is meant to welcome spring, and we do that in Chinese heritage by praying for a good harvest and worshiping the dragon kings. There are 4 of them who control the winds and the rains, and we'll talk a little bit about the job description of Eastern Long or Eastern dragons versus Western dragons. But if you're going by the Western Gregorian calendar, like most of us, then this usually happens in February or March, depending on when Chinese New Year's is. And one of the reasons why it is called Long Tai To, or dragon raises its head, is around this time, the Long Jiao Xing, or the dragon horn star in that constellation, is visible. And so in the olden days, people are like, oh, look, the dragon has risen, right? So for this festival, some of the traditions are to finally tidy and clean, right? Chinese New Year is over, so now the taboos against sweeping away good luck are gone, and you can totally Marie Kondo up a storm, with the exception of don't do laundry on this particular day because it is believed that you might, injure the dragon's delicate skin, so you don't want to disturb Mr. Long as he is doing his spa day. However, haircuts are now okay. So traditionally, the Chinese character for hair, or fa, sounds a lot like fa, which is the same fa as in fa cai, or let's get rich, right? So we wanted to be sure that during the Chinese New Year festival time, we didn't cut off or trim off any of our good fortune. But now that it is our Long Tai To, you can snip away, right? And so this says Panda giving Hao a haircut. However, you do not want to sew stuff on this particular day. So, if you're really into needlepoint, take a break, because you might poke a dragon in the eye, and that would not be good, right? However, traditionally, we do want to nom 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 a lot of dragon foods. So that is dumplings, which are known to be dragon ears, noodles, which are known to be dragon beards, and spring pancakes, which are known to be dragon scales. As to why it's okay to eat dragon body parts, but not okay to poke a dragon in the eye, right? Or damage its skin, I don't know. But 'tis the tradition, and the tradition is also delicious. All right. And to finish off our Chinese Dragon / Blue Dragon Festival 101, I wanted to give a little bit of a lowdown on the differences, right, between the Western dragon, rawr, and then the Eastern long, or also dragon. So my take on it is that Western dragons are kind of pudgy, right? They're stout and they're big. They fly flat, they have wings, and they also love treasure, and they usually live in the mountains, and they're very fire-based. Eastern dragons, on the other hand, can also fly, but they don't have wings because they have magic, and they are known to be gods, and they are, instead of fire leaning, they're very water focused, right? They're water benders, and they're also air benders. So they live in a palace under the sea, and they control the winds and the rains, and that is why people pray to them, especially in rural areas, because they are thought to control basically that which makes or breaks a good harvest. And instead of being stout and pudge, they are long and elegant. So if you play Pokemon, sort of Dragonair is an Easter long, but when it evolves, it becomes a Western dragon. It becomes a Dragonite. And so for the last part of this one pager, there is an ordering guide, and we also talk about idioms, and there are some recipes that I will talk about. But that is the end of our 5 minutes for our Blue Dragon Festival. It is giving me this error notice, but I believe the audio is fine, so I'm going to keep going. And so if you are done with your coffee break, go ahead and click mark as complete, right, in your module. But if you have a little bit more time, stick around. I will tell you a story about the dragon, blue dragon, and also some other idiom-related stories. And if this is your jam, you can also download this coloring sheet and color as you're listening to me, or, you can do your thing. All right, so I'm going to start another video, but it's actually going to be part of this video, so I'm going to stitch it together. Welcome to the rest of the Blue Dragon Festival Zongtaito module. So if you are on your Panda Cub Heritage Library, the rest of this is going to be divided into a guide section, which we'll talk about now. So it's Watching Guide, Chinese idiom guides that feature dragons, and this is also where the storytelling is going to happen. And then if you want to do some shopping, I put some dragon-themed books down here for you to look into. And then the last 3 items on the module are 3 dragon food tutorials. So dragon pancakes or scales, dragon whiskers, which are noodles, and then dragon dumplings, which are dragon ears. So these are going to be full cooking tutorials that you can follow. There's also a step-by-step recipe, and if you're on Patreon, I'll copy those over as well. Okay, so onto the dragon watching idiom and buying guide. Okay, so this is my favorite module because it's the part that has the most story in it, right? Panda Cub stories. So under the watching guide, I'll just kind of show you what these links click out to. I'm currently filming this in China, so my internet is not the best. So I have these already opened up. Now that my VPN is working. So the first one that I recommend is actually this super cute YouTube channel. It's called the Daddy Long, or with the Baba Shitiao Long Daddy Long YouTube channel. And so these are actually super short kind of vlog, lifestyle vlog videos. But it features an animated dragon who's just, a millennial dragon trying to make it in the big city with his wife and young son. So these are Mandarin language, but all of these are subtitled bilingually, and so definitely great for Mandarin listening practice, as well as reading practice if you want. All right. The next one is going to be a English language movie, although I believe it also has Mandarin voiceover as well because it's a Chinese co-production. So I have not actually watched this myself, but I have heard good things. It is a movie called The Wish Dragon, and John Cho voices the Long, which is pretty cool. And I also included the trailer here if you want to just hop on. So this should be on Netflix. All right. And hopping on to dragon-based idioms or 成语. So I included 2 here. One is 望子成龙, which is basically wishing or hoping for your children to do really, really well, right? So I have a video here that actually links to a collab between that My Daddy is a Dragon or Daddy Long channel and this other really cool channel called Lianzi Interview. So this is a longer video, but it's actually one of their shorter ones. And so Lianzi Interview does a lot of, obviously, Mandarin language interviews with just young people who are based in China to get a take on, their lives, their dreams, their struggles. It's great kind of lifestyle content and also good to kind of just have in the background if you want more Mandarin listening and also pop culture in your life. And this one, they're interviewing the Long. And the other one is a short 14-minute, also Chinese language documentary about sort of the Wanzi Chenlong, but also tiger parent mindset, right? All right, so the other idiom is 叶公好龙, or Lord Ye really loves dragons. So in Chinese, 好, in addition to meaning good, 好 also means to love. And so I will hop right into the story, but let me start another video to just make sure that the audio is working. So this is going to be the last part of this video, a deep dive into 叶公好龙, the story, and then I actually love this idiom, so I even wrote a little comic inspired by it. So we'll end the video with this. End the video with the 叶公好龙 story, which I will, but I also realized that I forgot to tell the actual story of the Blue Dragon Fest, so let me do that first. So bringing us back to our one-pager, and thank you for bearing with me as my internet speed is awful. All right, so Qinglongjie, Blue Dragon Festival. The story, it's a short one, behind how it came to be was a long time ago, right? The land was suffering a terrible, terrible drought. Crops were dying, people were crying, and they begged for anyone to help. And so the Donghai Longwang, or one of the four dragons of the four seas. So this one happened to be the Qinglong dragon, the king of the eastern seas. He took pity on the people, and he took it upon himself to hu feng huan yu. And so basically he brought the rain and he brought the winds, and the land was saved, right? The crops were saved and people no longer starved. However, Chinese culture is very hierarchical, so the Jade Emperor got mad at the Dragon King for basically taking it upon himself to do this while not heeding the heavens' commands. So he imprisoned the Qinglong and basically decreed that the dragon would not be released until basically, I think the story goes that gold, right, rises from the horizon and surrounds everything. And so what the people did was they realized that there are some things in life that are golden. For example, corn kernels, or certain dragon foods are quite yellow. And so the story goes that on Arya on that particular day, back in the day, people made a lot of popcorn and a lot of golden foods, and voila, the dragon was released, and they were able to save their savior who saved them. So the backstory for Blue Dragon Festival, or Long Tai To. All right, so all of that is to say dragons are very respected. In Chinese culture, they're gods in and of themselves, although I guess lesser gods, right? There's like the higher pantheon of gods in the heavens, and then these dragon gods rule the seas. But they are kind of really mythical and really magical and positive creatures. So people really love them. And back in the day, right, Chinese royalty had them all over their robes and their bowls and all of the stuff. And so that brings us back to the last part of our video, which is our idiom highlight of Ye Gong Hao Long, or Lord Ye's love of dragons. So I'll give kind of the lowdown of the story, which is once upon a time in ancient China, there was a wealthy man named Ye Gong, or Lord Ye. So his surname is Ye, and his title was Lord. And his love for dragons was so great, right, that the news even reached the ears of the mighty Dragon King himself. And so touched was the Dragon King that, he decided to take it upon himself to give Lord Ye a visit. So he, opened his palaces in the Eastern Sea. He flew up into the clouds, and he came to the gates of Lord Ye, where he kind of patiently waited to be greeted and be worshipped, right? But instead of coming out and worshiping his idol, Lord Ye was so frightened by the appearance of the Dragon King that he cowered and hid away out of sight and didn't show his face until basically the Dragon King was like, F this ish, I'm leaving. And so the Dragon King leaves, and Lord Ye, still kind of white-faced and cowering in fright, kind of peeked behind the doors and then finally came out. And so Ye Gong Hao Long, this idiom, is kind of meant to describe, I need to edit this. So the metaphorical meaning is not this. The metaphorical meaning is to profess to love something, but to actually be frightened of it. And I think you can also interpret this as, pretending to be something that you are not. And I kind of return to this idiom a lot, honestly, because I suffer from imposter syndrome a lot. And at the end of the day, I think Yegong is kind of the textbook imposter, right? So he is like, I love dragons, dragon this, dragon that. But then when dragon actually shows up, he's like, oh my God. And so I think I often use this idiom as sort of a warning to myself to not be Yegong and to actually put my money where my mouth is. And so this is a comic that I wrote that was kind of inspired by this. Although at the very end, I'll sort of, I guess, like play devil's advocate and say a couple of words in favor or in support of Yegong. But let's do the comic first. All right, so this comic was written while I was actually preparing for this comic, but you can, replace procrastinating on working on this comic with honestly anything in my life that I really want to do, but it's also kind of difficult. So as I said, it can be a tad difficult for me to sit down and start working on a new piece, even though I can honestly say that there is nothing else I'd rather be doing than telling stories for a living. And so usually things go a little bit like this. So it's comic time, and then I'm like, nope, it's snack time, and I spy a speck of dust. So instead of working, I go and clean for an hour or two. The cleanliness of my apartment is directly correlated with how much I am avoiding doing work. And so they're like, finally, time for the story of Yegong Halong. And I'm like, nope, let me take a nap. And so while I'm snoring away, Panda picks up the slack. And since the other is busy shirking her responsibilities, me will tell you the story of Yegong Halong instead. So this is going to be Panda's voice for now. I don't actually have a voice for Panda, so this is just going to be me testing this out. So again, once upon a time in ancient China, there lived a wealthy man named Lord Yi. And then, yes, his first name is Lord because this is my creative choice. Anyway, as I was saying, this is Lord Yi. And he has a tattoo, obviously, that says Pigul, and Heji, as always, the editor, is like, isn't this duel supposed to be from ancient China? Whatever, don't look at me. It's not my dream, even though it is my dream. Anyway, so Lord Ye really, really loved dragons. 叶公非常非常好龙. He had dragon-themed hats and dragon-themed socks, a dragon-themed chariot, and a dragon-themed yacht. Now, this is okay, even though he is a ancient China dude, because this is my dream. And in this dream, it's okay for, non-royalty to have dragon stuff. Basically, he really, really, really loved dragons. And he was always first in line at any dragon-themed event, including DragonCon, which I think is in Atlanta, but I digress. Anyway, word of Lord Ye's overwhelming passion for all things dragon reached the ears of the mighty Dragon King himself, probably because a little bird / panda went over and told him. And so moved was the Dragon King by Yegong's devotion that he decided to make a day trip down to the mortal realm to pay his number one fan a visit. Meanwhile, right, Lord Ye is talking to them chicks, and he was like, well, tattoo means dragon in Chinese when it actually means pigul. And someone says, and the Hao Xing Long, right, the good-hearted dragon, says, it actually says, alas, when faced with a real live dragon, Yegong suddenly realized that in actuality, he didn't love dragons all that much after all, and he skitters away in terror. And the dragon says, I was only going to say his tattoo was wrong, and it actually means der butt. Anyway. Turns out Yegong wasn't a true dragon fan. After all, he was just a big old poser. And I don't know why this bopped me back to the first panel, but there we go. Here we go. And the story, and here I come, awakening from the dream. Awakening from the dream also apparently means that it pops me back to the first panel. Okay. Now, I'm just gonna come back. So, I had the strangest dream, and now I'm ready to make art instead of just talking about it. And to bring us back to the end of the video, when I talked about how I was going to say a couple words in favor of Yegong / myself, because honestly, I identify with him a lot, right? And so for me, fueled by my caffeine nap and perhaps a bit of dream intervention by Sneaky Panda, the author finally sat her butt down and made this comic you are reading / finished filming this video you are watching. But to come back to Yegong being a poser, at the end of the day, I really think that Yegong Halong, this idiom, I kind of feel for Yegong, right? And I don't actually know if I was going to give him even more of a backstory, whether or not he really was much of an imposter. You know, I think he might have really actually loved dragons, but the fact that this giant god is at your doorsteps is really, really intimidating, right? So in my mind, I'm like, if I was Yegong, maybe I would be like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not dressed. I have to go, I have to go, prep and primp myself up. I don't have the right things to welcome the Dragon Lord with, right? My pantry isn't stocked. I have to go do this. I have to go do that. And so maybe instead of hiding, he was actually in his house really, really wanting to impress the dragon, but because of his, perfectionism, he was unfortunately unable to do so, and the dragon left. And so for me, I'm like, okay, Yegong Halong. I think let's pair that also with 不要画蛇添足, right? So let's not wait until things are perfect to do the things we love, and to welcome and call in that which we really, really dream about. And even if everything isn't perfect, let's go ahead and embrace the chabudo. And my video isn't working, so you can't see me and Panda waving at you, but that was the end of our Blue Dragon Festival walkthrough. I hope you love it. I hope you have a wonderful 2月2 龙抬头 Qinglongjie or Blue Dragon Festival, and I will see you in April for Qingmingjie or Tune Sweeping Festival. All right, bye-bye, 再见.